Quick welcome if you're new here. This is 5 Random Questions. If you enjoy this episode, hit follow so you don't miss the next one.
I might also point out that that's a bit of a fault of mine. And that's sometimes you wait too long. If only I had known, if I had acted sooner. I can't tell you how many times in business people said, if only I had acted sooner, it would have been different. It would have worked out better. Could have worked out worse. But often when we talk about if only I had acted sooner, we're talking about something that could have been better.
Hi, and welcome to 5 Random Questions, the show with unexpected questions and unfiltered answers. I'm your host, Danny Brown, and each week I'll be asking my guests 5 questions created by a random question generator. The guest has no idea what the questions are, and neither do I, which means this could go either way. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into this week's episode. Today's guest is Matt Cundill. Matt is a recovering broadcaster turned podcast producer and host. He's the founder of the Sound Off Media Company, where he develops and produces a diverse portfolio of original and branded shows spanning industry commentary, culture, tourism, lifestyle, and music storytelling. His flagship program, the Sound Off podcast, is now in its 10th year, approaching 500 episodes, and remains a leading voice in North American podcast and broadcast industry conversations. He also publishes the Sound Off newsletter, widely followed by media professionals across Canada and the United States. So Matt, welcome to 5 Random Questions.
Thanks for having me. I've actually always wanted to be on this show.
You don't have to say that, mate. I got you on anyway, so but thank you. I appreciate that. And we've known each other a little bit. We've met actually in person. I think we met online first, obviously, but then we've met in person at podcasting events. And as I mentioned in the intro there, your leading podcast, your main podcast, 500 episodes or almost 500 over 10 years, which is almost, I think, if my math is correct, about an episode a week. So what's the secret to consistency and just essentially longevity, keeping going?
I think it's jealousy is the answer. And I was really jealous of people who were really good at this. And one of the things I said, well, how do you keep doing? And they said, well, I keep creating every week and I'm always trying to reinvent what I'm doing and I'm always adding to it. I said, well, if I can just be consistent with the whole thing, then good things will happen. And consistency is really, one of the keys to building audience. I had Aaron Mahnke from Lore, sort of say, well, why do you release sometimes on Thursdays and sometimes on Tuesdays? And he said, if you can be consistent with it, you can build a great audience from it. And of course, I should have known that being a radio broadcaster, because you should see the number of people who go to the Radio Hall of Fame just by showing up every day at the same time and putting in a mediocre job, right?
Just shipping it. And it's funny you mentioned Hall of Fame there, because obviously, like your background is in media production, podcasting, etc., and the creative front. But obviously, you've got many interests outside of that. And being Scottish, from Scotland originally, have been in Canada for the last 20 years now. But I don't know a lot about American football. And yes, I'm calling it American football because my football is a proper one. But I don't know a lot about American football. And I noticed on a recent social media post that you said there are a lot of truly petty people in the world. And those people are the ones who did not vote Bill Belichick to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So what's all that about? Why are they all petty?
Well, it's sports writers who vote on this stuff. And it's very odd. We're punishing Pete Rose all the time for, he can't go to the Hall of Fame because of something that he did. Bill Belichick got caught up in something called Deflategate, where there was a little cheating involved, where the footballs were not quite as inflated as they should be, which led to, of course, less fumbles. But, media has it in for some of these sports professionals, and it's just petty. Listen, this is the winningest head coach of all time. This is a simple thing to do. You put him in the Hall of Fame, but on the first ballot in his first year of eligibility, they didn't do it. And it's, I guess some people have got an axe to grind with the sports media. And if you go back and look at a number of his media conferences, he would often hold them at 7 a.m. He would force the media to get out of bed. There were a lot of curt answers. There's a lot of great sound bites. He would answer the same way every time. He had tremendous disdain for the media, and this was their way of getting back at him. And it's petty.
So I guess it's a media, like I said, I don't really understand or don't know. I understand. I know American football. I understand. I've played it on the Sega Genesis way back in the day. So I'm guessing the Hall of Fame, it's all primarily media led for nominations, recognition, awards, etc. then?
Yeah, and there's people inside football who get to vote on this too, but it's perpetuated in a strange way. Listen, he's not a likable guy. That's fine. Is this the way we should be sort of getting back at him and judging him? It seems like a petty way to do it.
Okay, well, what we will try, and thanks for explaining that. We will try not to be petty with our questions and answers here, but and continue the Hall of Fame theme. I'm going to invite you now to the Hall of Fame collection that have been on the Random Question Hot Seat. Are we ready for this?
I'm ready.
Awesome. Let's bring up the Random Question Generator. Okay. Yeah, I think this may have been up before, but it's been a while since it came up, and I'm always curious for questions like this. So, Matt, question number 1. If you had $10 million, would you still be working or going to school if that was an option too?
Absolutely. I absolutely would still be working. I don't know what I would do if I didn't have work. And I know these are kind of like the words of somebody who may be a workaholic, but I've been getting out of bed and working and excited to go to work too every day for like a very long time. Now, if I didn't like my job and it didn't involve microphones and recording audio, dealing with audiences, making people happy, that sort of thing, you know what? I might quit, but I have made it a part of my life to do something that I really, really enjoy and be sure to wake up every morning to something I want. I like to wake up to the future every day. I think podcasting's got a great future in front of it, and I'm excited. So absolutely, 100%. If I had $10 million, I would still be doing exactly what I'm doing.
So what would you, and I kind of figured you might, knowing you as a person, what would some of the changes be that we'd make with that extra money? So events, would you go to more events, more podcast events? Would you create bursaries? Would you create XY studios? What would you do with the 10 million?
I'd probably work in a little bit more travel into it. So let's say there's podcasting events I couldn't afford to go to. I would definitely find a way to afford to go and explore the world, and as well, see what podcasting is like in other parts of the world. I'm sure that I could probably have just one too many drinks that I would part with some of that money into some company or something. In fact, actually, just before, we started recording this, I had a phone call from somebody who was looking for a little bit of money for their app. And I thought, well, if I had that, I would probably, do it. And if I had $10 million, I definitely would have given this person the $1,500 they wanted as a contribution towards the development of their app. So I would definitely be a little bit more, I would be spending a little bit more if I had the 10 million. I got a soft spot,
Yeah, no, 100%. And it's funny you mentioned, what you would do to help, app developers, for example, and podcasting, pros and people new to the industry. I'm curious, is there anything you would use the money to kick out with the podcasting space or the production or media space that's kind of bad and holds people back, if you like?
Yeah, so I've often thought about this, and the question that comes up quite often is, what would you do if you had $100,000 to market your podcast? I think I would probably be looking for ways to make shows more popular. I'm not sure that there's a direct spend with any of that money, but it would be something that I would look to try to increase voices. Now, I just don't know how to spend that money. You see, I'm very cautious with money. I'm like, well, I have it. I'm not really sure if I should be jumping into that. I'm going to take a year to think about this idea. And if I wake up in about a year and I still love the idea, then I would probably jump at it. And I might also point out that that's a bit of a fault of mine. And that's sometimes you wait too long. If only I had known, if I had acted sooner. I can't tell you how many times in business people said, if only I had acted sooner, it would have been different. It would have worked out better. Could have worked out worse. But often when we talk about if only I had acted sooner, we're talking about something that could have been better. That's my characteristics. That's what would happen with $10 million. In the end, I would still have $10 million plus interest, and I wouldn't have acted. I'd still be thinking about it, though.
Well, yeah. And interest would rack up pretty quickly, I feel, on 10 million. So then you've got like an added problem of, well, now I can't spend it. Now it's 10 and a half. Now it's 11. Now it's 11 and a half.
There's a B part to that, because of the question, it says, going to school, would you still go to school? I think I love working in this space because I'm a student of podcasting. Even though I've got, 10, 15, 20 years of experience having, very simply even uploading to what was iTunes, at the time, I still want to be a student of, audio and learn every day. I think that's part of it.
No, I like that. And like you say, yeah, I mean, I think once we feel we've learned all we can about podcasting and the space that we both love, clearly, that's time to hang up the mic, personally.
Hey, I just got $10 million. I don't even know how to grow the space yet.
Well, I can help you with that just for a mere $3 million. So not even taking a big chunk yet. So you're all good there, mate. But okay, I like that. And that's a nice, informal, easy one, I feel. A gentle one to kick off proceedings. So let's have a look and see what comes up with question number 2. Okay, question number 2. And I'm wondering, we were speaking, you mentioned the green room earlier, prior to recording there, Matt. We were speaking about Netflix and stuff like that. So question 2, what is the worst movie that you've seen?
Well, so there are a lot of them. I thought Zapped with Scott Baio back in 1980 something, that was terrible. I thought Gone Girl more recently, I think it was like 2015, maybe 2014. That was terrible. I didn't like that movie. I didn't like the movie with Matt Damon going to space. And I'll tell you, in terms of quality of movies, I don't find movies to be, I've never thought it was time well spent. And, if you only go to see one movie a year, you'd hear that in the trailer. If you only see one movie a year, well, I'm the person who actually only sees one movie a year. And I made it a point for many, many years to just see one movie a year that, was word of mouth that people said I had to go see. Then I would be excited to go see the movie. But there are so many movies out there. And I thought there was a turning point with Gone Girl. I met my now wife and she said, I love going to movies. Let's go. And well, what are we going to see? We're going to see Gone Girl. I said, okay. And I went to watch it. I was impatient. I didn't like it. I don't remember much. I didn't identify with what was going on. Some people found it clever. I thought I'm never getting, 2 hours of my life back after that investment. So I'm quite careful with it. What I look for in a movie is I like good writing. I love a great story, and I love characters that make me laugh, that, make me love them, make me hate them, something like that. But if your movie doesn't have that, don't bring it around here. Don't bring your 2-star movie here. Do not bring your 3 or 3.5-star movie here either. Want 4s and 5s.
And you mentioned that you make it, or made, I'm not sure if it's still the case now, but you made it a point of just seeing one movie a year. So do you prefer just staying at home and wait until it comes onto streaming then, or buy it on digital to watch? Or is it, you mentioned obviously that's how you met your wife. Was at a movie, or going to the movie, not at a movie. Didn't go in there and met her in the dark or whatever. We're going to a movie theatre. Is it still something that you still go, even knowing that you probably won't enjoy the movie you're going to see, or do you just you prefer to stay at home now?
If I sense I'm not going to enjoy the movie, I'm not going to the movie. Often, and this is where my wife does a great job, she knows I love documentaries. So we will watch, like, for instance, the Bruce Springsteen movie, which not everybody loved. I enjoyed it. I did like that one when it came out, which talks about Bruce Springsteen's time between recording Born in the USA and Nebraska in that 1982, 83, 84 period. Really enjoyed that one. But yeah, she'll bend over for that. But, to help me, to make it so that we can watch the movie together. It's just not often we can do that because there's only so many history documentaries she's going to enjoy. And
that's your jam then, History Rocks?
Yeah, I love nonfiction. I love history. I'm a history major. Just love studying history. When I went to Acadia University, the professor, he was giving me C's and C minuses, but that didn't matter. I fell in love with the whole thing. And he taught me how to study it and how to appreciate history. And I've kind of been in that space ever since.
And it's also expensive to go to the movie theatre now. We've got 2 teen kids. So if we were to go as a family of 4 and buy the tickets, then the popcorn, drinks, whatever, and then let's say we're hungry either before the movie or after it, you're talking probably, I don't know, $300 for an evening out, maybe.
Yeah, I'm sad actually, because we don't go to movie theaters as much. And inside the theaters, there's only movies that we are familiar with. They're generally a bunch of reboots. There's a bunch of remakes. I did go see, for instance, the Barbie movie. That was my one movie for that year, actually, that I did go out to go see. I enjoyed it, but I think I feel that we've lost a little bit with streaming into the house. It's nice to have the convenience, but I just moved to a very small town. There's only a few thousand people in Saint Adel, Quebec, where I live now, but we have a movie theater, and the movie shows movies in French and in English. And this is a predominantly Francophone town too. So I am happy to be in a town where there's a nice movie theater.
That's awesome. We're actually in a small village too, probably about the same kind of numbers. Like there's 800 families, so let's say that's about 3,000 people probably.
Yeah.
We don't have a movie theatre, but if we drive like 15 minutes away, there's an old fashioned one. It's got just 2 rows, leather chairs, a little dinky screen, no huge Dolby Atmos or whatever. And I do enjoy that because that takes me back to when I was a teen going to see a movie, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. So we know that maybe with your 10 million, you could like make a little indie movie that could go to these little theaters.
I probably would do that. And in fact, in my top desk drawer, there's about 3 or 4 podcast ideas that are sitting there that would probably go straight from, we'll skip the podcast and we'll take it right to make a documentary with it.
I was going to say I'll take you up on that, but I won't because I want my 3 million for the idea. So I'll leave you with the 7 to make the movie then, mate.
Listen, this is what we make you executive producer for.
I like it. I'm going to put that on my side of my desk. I'm going to get a background sign for that. Matt's executive producer. Sounds good. All right, I like that then. Let's have a look then at question number 3. What is the last thing you do before you go to sleep?
I put on a podcast.
I wasn't sure if you were going to say that or not, but I kind of feel that you might have. But okay, cool.
And that's because of the way I grew up. I grew up in Montreal. I grew up with an AM radio beside my AM FM clock radio, actually beside my bed. But predominantly, I would listen to AM. 10 o'clock at night, I would listen to sports with Ted Teven, who was a Detroit broadcaster, also Montreal broadcaster. But, the Montreal Canadiens hockey game or the Montreal Expos game would end, and I would listen to the phone calls, and I learned to fall in love with the radio. And that got a little bit boring. I would turn the dial and I could move it from 600 down to 660, which is WNBC. Oh, wow. I'm getting a New York radio station piping right into my bedroom. You could turn it a little further. You get to 810, get to Detroit. You pick up, WLS. It was 800 actually was Detroit. 810 was WLS. I'm going off memory. These are all call letters and frequencies that are yeah. That nobody talks about as much anymore. But I fell in love falling asleep listening to the radio. And that really hasn't changed today. I'm not much for a TV in the bedroom. This has been a bit of a sticking point with my wife and I. She loves the TV in the bedroom. I do not like the blue light. That doesn't stop me from picking up an iPad every once in a while. And I do know that if I wake up in the middle of the night, I do not want to check the phone. I do not want to look at an iPad or anything because that's blue light. Blue light will keep you awake. And I like to get my sleep. I think that's important to get your sleep. So I find it wonderful to drift off with the sound of a voice.
And do you have like set podcasts that you listen to? Because I'd imagine maybe there's some genres like true crime. I'm not sure. Maybe not. But have you got like a really gory, scary true crime story that might keep you or keep some people awake? Is there a kind of genre or certain podcasts you drift off to?
Oh, I have a story. Because this happened the other night. I went to sleep listening to Christy Lee, Canadian True Crime. And the story involved, bad things, of course. And my wife woke up in the morning. She said, I dreamt of this bad thing and this bad thing. And I said, well, I take responsibility because the podcast was on and it probably put that in your mind. And that's how you got to dreaming about that sort of thing. So when I do fall asleep, it will be sports. It could be politics. I love falling asleep to politics. Politics is so dull that you just sort of lose yourself and then you fall asleep to it. If it's something instructional, if it's something that's going to be good for me, I used to do this at university. I would read a textbook before going to bed. I was done after a page and a half of political science. I'm done. I'm asleep. Yeah. It's good stuff to fall asleep to. I like to listen to some sports, but sometimes if I'm emotionally invested, it will get my heart racing. It will have the reverse effect. So I don't need to hear anything else about the Buffalo Bills and their tragedies. Because that just makes me sad and it keeps me up at night. They literally keep me up at night. So I can't listen to any sports that talks about something sad like that.
No, I hear you. And do you so obviously you mentioned that your wife woke up and she couldn't sleep or she was having nightmares and dreams about the topic of the true crime. Do you feel, not buy into, that's kind of the wrong word, do you feel that subconsciously what we listen to prior to going to sleep can help, or even while sleeping? So if you want to learn a new language, for example, like people say, well, go to sleep, listen to learning Spanish. or learn French or whatever, or if you want to learn history, and be better prepared for your exams, go to sleep listening about the topic you're going to be examined on. Examined, I think that's a verb.
Tested.
There you go. Thank you. Do you believe that? Is that something you've seen?
Yeah, it actually happened just last night. And she said, well, she woke up this morning and said, well, I was dreaming of being in a hotel. And I said, well, maybe you wouldn't be dreaming of being in a hotel if you weren't booking hotels as the last thing you were doing before you went to sleep last night. We often, and this goes back to the television too. I don't like the television in the room, especially if the show is going to be of a nature where there's like murder or crime or something sad happening. I'll bring that feeling to bed with me, and I won't feel good about it. So, I like to go to sleep with butterflies and unicorns and, my wonderful chicken farm and other things that I'm imagining in faraway places. But yeah, if you bring, for instance, The Sopranos is a tough one before bed because it's heavy storylines, heavy conversation. There's murder, there's blood. It gets the heart going, and, you can sleep with a little bit of discomfort. So that's why I'm not a fan of the TV in the bedroom. I've managed to keep the television out of the bedroom to this point, since we moved about a year ago. And, I think as a couple, we're better for it.
Yeah. I know my wife used to watch, Dexter a lot. She'd binge watch Dexter before bed. And then she'd wonder why, she wasn't getting good night's sleep and having nightmares and stuff. And I said to her, well, what are you watching before you go to sleep? Well, Dexter.
It's a heavy watch.
Exactly. And I couldn't, I enjoy scary movies, but I wouldn't watch them late at night before going to sleep. I'd watch them middle of the afternoon or early evening when there's still, light, etc.
Okay, so scary movies. I know we did movies earlier in this conversation. We are not doing scary movies ever. That is out. So I like lighthearted comedies, things that make you smile, things that make you laugh. That's where I am. But I've got a wife who loves true crime shows, listening to it, and she also watches trials. She loves like the lawyer, the YouTube channels with the lawyers, and stuff like that. So very invested. She has a law background. She loves watching that stuff, but not for me.
Not for you. But I'd imagine, and that's good because like often many couples I know watch the same stuff, enjoy the same stuff. But it sounds like you've got two very different things that you enjoy, which I'd imagine offers some great conversations as well when you're talking about and trying to maybe explain why you enjoyed X, Y, Z, and she's the same, with her stuff. Yeah.
So, we meet in the middle. At some point we have to settle on something on Netflix or Amazon Prime or, one of those streaming services. We do have to land on something. So we do find stuff. So The Studio with Seth Rogen is something I watched. We loved it. We watched it together, loved it. Hopefully there's going to be more in the near future. So we have our shows and we meet in the middle. And, I live an American football lifestyle for a number of months of the year where we travel. We'll go to see the team, maybe even twice. I watch my team and, she watches alongside. So she's gotten into it, just watching me go through my sad emotions on Sundays.
Well, I won't keep you with the sad emotion mindset there, but I like that. And I like the, like you say, it's just like, I'm with you 100% in the blue light. I need my sleep. I'm at an age now. If I don't get my sleep, I'm Scottish. I'm a Gen X Scotsman, so I'm grumpy anyway by default. If I don't get my night's sleep, no, don't come near me that day.
But also, Danny, we work in front of screens all day. So,
yeah, that's true.
We have our fill of screens. I don't need any more screens as well. I'm making content all day and listening to other people's stories and making stories. I don't need to watch somebody else's story because I'm going to watch well, they missed the writing there. Well, I can see that coming. I got to watch it from such a different perspective. It's almost like not fun to be with me. Almost, I said.
Well, I've met you and I know what you mean. So we'll leave that there, mate. I jest. This part is brought to you by someone awesome. We'll be back with more questions in a sec.
Martin here from Dad's Bedtime Stories, the podcast that takes your kids' wildest suggestions and turns them into bedtime adventures. Suggestions like,
I want a story for a robot summer camp where the robots battle.
Or,
I want a story
about a unicorn named Rainbow Dash.
So if your kids want to fall asleep dreaming of wizards, dragons, planets full of living strawberries, or even a universe where kids battle with magical cards, then check it out. Dad's Bedtime Stories, available anywhere podcasts are distributed.
Hey there, Danny here. If you enjoy 5 Random Questions, I've started a short weekly newsletter called the 5RQ Companion. Each week, it's just a few things. One lingering question from the episode, one small behind-the-scenes moment, and one question just for you. It's free, thoughtful, and a nice way to keep the conversation going between episodes. You can find it at 5rqcompanion.com. And now, back to this week's episode. So on that note, before Matt reaches through the screen and rearranges my face, let's have a look at what comes up on question number 4. And I like this one. It's come up before, but I do like this. So Matt, question 4. What is one of the top things on your bucket list?
Wow. Okay, so I haven't really thought about my bucket list for a long, long time. Because I thought as I was going through life, I was checking them off when I didn't even really need to check them off. I want to see Metallica. Well, I've seen Metallica now 10 times. I had the luxury of working in radio and even got to see Metallica play at the North Pole at one point in my life, where I met Adam Curry, who, if you know anything about podcasting, was one of the very first to create a podcast. And there was Adam Curry, who was, and I don't know why I'm telling the story because I haven't answered the question yet, but there he was doing some live streaming. And I said, well, what's his live streaming? Well, I'm live streaming the concert from the North Pole. And I thought, wow. Anyway, that turned out, at one point, just seeing Metallica was on my bucket list. Today, it's just simply, travel to Asia. I've never been. I also have never been to Africa. So I've got 2 things, and they both involve travel. In places to go. And I'm beginning to really think about it now that I'm well into my 50s. And, is it Japan or is it Thailand? And where do I go in Africa? And I've got a lot of podcast listeners in Nigeria, and I've made connections with people there. And I thought that might be an interesting place to go. But people tell me Kenya is remarkable. So the bucket list it definitely involves travel, and those 2 parts of the planet are just under-traveled on my passport. It's interesting. It's like, I think travel is such a key thing as well. Like, a few of the past episodes on this season, funnily enough, we've been talking about why people should travel if they get the opportunity, and for so many reasons. And like Africa and Asia, it just seems like, because they're so far away from where we are as well, it makes it, such an interesting and desirable place to go. And I know we probably know some of the, we'll probably have some fellow, creators from Africa that we both know. Is there what's the sort of main reason for choosing there as opposed to, let's say, Europe? I guess that's easier to get to maybe, or Australia, or, is it just it's completely different culture from what we might get in North America? So I picked out 2 continents. And they're just 2 places I have not been. I think they'd be challenging places to go. I wouldn't find Australia very challenging to go to. I feel like I know Australia just from getting on the lift at Whistler. I've met enough of the lifties there who can help me get. I feel like those places would be the challenging ones. But Europe, I've been to quite a lot, and I've spent a lot of time in Spain. I love it. It's an easy place to work from. I can spend 1 month of my life there. It's, in the south of Spain is Malaga. The weather's nice. I can get out of the Canadian winter for a little bit. It's kind of an easy place to do it, but it's not travel. I'm actually living there for, anywhere between 4 and 6 weeks. And, I enjoy it, and I enjoy the food. I know a little bit of the language. I like to practice the language, but it's time to probably leave the box and try Thailand, try Japan, something in Asia, just, sort of travel a little bit further than normally than what I would be used to. Again, this takes a little bit of research. It takes a little bit of definitely some preparation to go to places it definitely takes preparation to go to a new place because you want to get the most out of it in the amount of time that you're going to spend there.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like, that's what I was going to ask you actually. So I'm glad you brought that little segue. Perfect there. It's like you're a pro, mate. It's like you're a pro. But would you, I guess, how long would you want to go there for? And would you do a mix of the larger metropolitan areas, getting my words out properly, and then go deeper into the country to discover off the beaten track? Or how would you mix that up?
Probably with research and a lot of word of mouth. So I would probably ask other people who have been there, and this is another thing, and that's YouTube. YouTube has really opened up the world to travel, to say, oh, here's an experience. I'd like to do this too. Instagram as well has told us some of the great places we can go try and what we can eat. It's changed the game, and it's changed the game in another way. And by the way, Anthony Bourdain did this as well. He would go to places and he would sort of show the experiences, and then people began to mimic it. And he realized, and a lot of successful YouTubers are really realizing, if I go and promote this restaurant, or if I go to promote this tourist attraction, this place is going to get slammed if I do it right and I make it look good. And it happens. There are specific restaurants I know in Barcelona that are largely tourists. Tourists go there. There's still some locals, but by and large, it's a lot of tourists who go, and they've been sold by other Instagrammers or by other YouTubers to go in. So yes, I would fall down that trap. I would definitely use YouTube to help me sort of frame my experience. Because if you see one person do it, then we can mimic it and then we can go copy it. We used to use the Voters book to find out where to go. Those are very good too. But now we've got YouTube and we can see for ourselves what the experience is like. And I preface that by saying for better or worse.
No, I agree. I wish I had YouTube. I did a backpacking trip to Australia in my early to mid 30s, so 20 plus years ago. And it was all about, I knew one person from Australia, and he was like a waiter at one of the diners I went to. So he'd say, okay, well, if you're going to New South Wales, you have to do this and this, but then you have to do that. But if I never knew that guy, I'd have no idea what to do. Whereas now, I know we give a lot of stick sometimes to YouTube and some of the creators on there and TikTok, etc. But it's such a great platform, or these are great platforms as well to help you, when it comes to decisions like that, I think.
One of the things that really comes up when I'm thinking, okay, Metropolis is easy. I want to learn how to use public transportation. That's the first thing I want to learn. To leave, though, and go to the countryside, how am I going to do it? Can I take a train? Fine, I will take a train. Is there a bus? Okay, I'll take a bus. Do I have to rent a car? Is that easy? What side of the road do I drive on? Is there a stick shift? That doesn't bother me. I have a stick shift. I know how to work that thing. But, these are some of the questions that get asked, when I want to leave the metropolis and head to the countryside. I did some driving in Italy and Spain. And then I realized I wasn't necessarily on holiday because I found myself paying so much attention to what was going on the road that I said, well, this doesn't feel as much like a holiday. So I learned to use public transportation wherever possible. Especially
like if you go to Rome, there's like a massive roundabout smack in the middle of Rome that's a nightmare.
I did it.
You did that one?
I survived it. And it's not far from the train station. And across the street from the train station is where you can rent the cars. And it's like one of the first things you encounter. All I can tell you about driving in Italy is it's twice as bad as you've been told in Rome and only half as bad when you're in the countryside.
I can imagine that. I've not been far out in Italy, but I just remember that like roundabout. There's another one in Paris as well, near the Arc de Triomphe, where it's just, and then my wife, she's Canadian, so she's used to doing little dinky roundabouts that have got 2 lanes tops, but normally 1 lane. And then she looks at that and she has like palpitations, even thinking about driving there.
I've got one worse, and I'll throw it at her, and that's called Bermuda, where they've got the roundabouts, but they're going around on the left side in the other direction.
Oh.
So I'm a regular visitor to Bermuda, and driving on the left on a scooter is, I enjoy that. I really do enjoy that. And then I can deal with the roundabouts. You just got to be prepared to give way.
Yeah, because Bermuda, now, so you mentioned the left there. So I'm assuming Bermuda does the same side of the road driving as the UK and Australia then.
Yeah, it's a British island.
Oh, it's a British island. I thought I forgot that completely.
And this is one of the cleanest places on the planet. They serve tea at 4:00 and everybody is dressed well.
High tea.
High tea is served at 4.
High tea, Wisconsin cream.
That's
strawberries and such as. Oh man, done it again. I last week's episode, I mentioned to my guests we were talking about pizza, and I said I've got to stop talking about food on the show because every time I do, I want to have what we're talking about after the episode finishes recording. Now I need to make like a scone. Well, I've not got a scone, but I've got muffins, English muffins. I have to try find some cream and jam for that then. Thanks for that, Matt. I appreciate you making me think about food again on an episode. Alrighty. We're doing well. We've got to the last question. So let's see what question number 5 brings up. And yeah, okay. This may tie into your first answer actually about procrastination. Maybe, I'm not sure. Anyway, Matt, question number 5, mate. What's one thing that you would like to change about yourself? Not necessarily would, but would like to.
That's a hard one. And I'll tell you why is because I think about that a lot and what I would like to be. And it's something that I work on quite often. And that's, I would like to learn how to let go of control. I have control issues and I don't have a fear of flying, but I'm very, very nervous about flying. So before the plane takes off, I'm saying little mantras. I'm calming myself down. But what I learned was I don't really have a fear of flying. I've got a control problem, and that's letting somebody else operate the plane to take me to my next destination. So, which also leads to a little bit of trust issues. So there's control and trust in there. I'd like to learn a little bit more about being more comfortable with not being in control.
Interesting.
Yeah. So this goes to, producing a radio show. I had to have my finger on the buttons. I like to be in control of what's going on. I like to be in control of the sound and the production. And, it's to my detriment. If I could let go of a little bit more, I'd probably get more done in the day. If I could let go of a little bit more, things might flourish a little bit better. I'm kind of like the person who overwaters their plants, probably spends too much time hovering over a situation, spends too much time over focused on something that just doesn't need any attention. We've written the program works. What are we doing? Well, I like to fiddle with it a little bit more, right? Because I'm comfortable being in control. It gives me a good feeling. I'd like to be told, I like to know when to knock it off and to not worry about having a controlling moment.
Do you think this might have, I'm not sure if it was like before or after. Obviously, you spent many a year in production, in the media space. Was that a trait that you had prior to going into that? Or do you think you picked that up as you learned more and you started to control more of productions, studios, etc.?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think I've been to enough therapy to know that I got into radio in this particular space because there were things that I could control. And because I could control what was going on the radio or what the content was or the direction we'd be headed, that led me to being a manager, which led me to, running radio stations and then starting my own company and having degrees of control over it. Yeah. I mean, it's something that was ingrained at me at a younger age where I wanted to sort of have or exert a little bit of control. So I'm not controlling in a sense of I'm going to control this relationship or I'm going to control the outcome of something. I just like to have my hands on the wheel.
Now that makes me wonder. So obviously you've got various podcasts, you produce various podcasts, and one of the ones you do is a podcast, Super Friends, with you and 4 co-hosts normally. And you not control, you produce that. Would you be willing to hand the reins over to one of the other co-hosts to produce that, or would that have to be you?
So we actually had a guest on from Riverside, Cundill, who is the community manager there. And so it only makes sense that we would use Riverside in order to record this episode. So happy to let that go. Yeah, I would totally, let that go and let somebody else do it. I would probably find a little bit of joy for a day, but there's a little bit of that rush that when I'm sort of driving, I'm like, oh yeah, there's a little bit of a rush there to how we're going to be producing with 5 or 6 people on the screen. And is it all going to work? And what are we going to bring in at what point? But yeah, I'd be more than happy to pass it off. Now, because I'm running, the recording system, we do share hosting duties. And I think that's part of it is just, maybe today I should let go. What can I let go of today that will serve the greater good of our group? And by the way, that's something that I've had to learn in my 30s. late 20s into my especially in my younger 30s, was just to let go a little bit. Eventually I found my way to a yoga mat, and they really, really taught me how to let go. Just to let that go into the universe, and it's going to be okay. And they didn't lie. Everything's fine. It's going to be okay. And it's also my dad, my late father, he would say to me, after I would come back from a day's work of blah, 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 this, and this, all this is wrong in my life. And he would say, you know what? It's going to be okay. Why don't you just let that go? It doesn't matter. You'd be surprised by the number of things that we worry about that just don't matter. And I'm still learning that. I'm still and now often I find myself just saying to my kids too, that doesn't matter. When I see somebody riled up, and especially in this day and age, post-pandemic, seeing people on the street, or they go off, or there's a tweet or this or that, and they're riled up, you'd be surprised how that doesn't matter. And I find myself telling other people this stuff. And sometimes I also have to tell myself that too.
No, it's funny you mentioned that. Like I say, we live in a little village, but we moved here from just west of Toronto a few years back. So we went from a big place to a really small place. So it took a bit of mindset change to adapt to that. And one of the things that we have up here is, like, because we got a lot of snow in the winter, we have a lot of trails, etc. So there's a lot of snowmobilers, I guess. And it took me, and even now sometimes, if someone goes by and the snowmobile is just a little bit loud, I think, oh, turn that down, you don't need that loud. But I'm thinking, but who cares? You're not hurting anyone, you're not, or my wife says that to me, I should say. But who are they hurting? They're not doing drugs, they're not terrorising pensioners, or out on their snowmobiles enjoying the outdoors. What's bad about that? So I get you. And it's like you say, mate, it's hard to, when you've been so long of one mindset, it's hard to try to forget at times that, don't let that upset you.
Yeah, we used to have these discussions in radio where we get together and we say, well, this is the way it's done and this is the way it should be. And we get hung up on it, and then the results wouldn't be there. And one of the things I learned was just let's try somebody else's idea. Even if it's bad, let's try the idea. One of two things is going to happen. It's going to be bad, and we will then know it is bad, or it's going to work out and be good. But both the results are great because you get feedback.
And you might get a really awesome, outcome, for that change. Right?
Yeah. So I, as controlling as I am, as much as I know that I like to be in control of things, I like trying other ideas as well, because you never know. And if I knew, then I would know. But I just have to admit, sometimes I just don't know.
No, I like that. I feel that's a nice one to finish off your time in the hot seat, mate. But speaking of handing over control and, driving the train or driving the car or whatever, I've had you in the hot seat for around about 40 minutes or so there, mate. So it's only fair to take that pressure off and hand over the question asking baton to you.
So I gave some thought to this one, and then about just between question 3 and question 4, I thought, oh, I see. This is, Danny gets on about food, and I've got a food question.
You swine. I'm going to edit this. There's be no guest question this week.
Well, I brought it back up, so I may let you pass on this one, but I know that you're in Huntsville, Ontario, and I know the region well. It can be cold, especially over the last number of weeks. Some long nights, cold ones, and I'm wondering what your favorite comfort food dish is on a cold night in Huntsville, Ontario, and how do you make it if you do make it yourself?
Ooh. So generally, if I'm looking for comfort food, I might just get something from a drive-through, but it's too much effort to get out there, especially in the winter, to do that. So I guess my comfort food, the one I like, which is fairly easy to make as well, I will do, and this is going to sound disgusting, it's like a Scottish thing, so probably is disgusting. So I like warm food. If comfort, it's got to be warm for one. So I'll make some toast. So that's pretty easy. And then I'll get some cold meat. So it can be ham, it can be turkey slices, whatever it is. And I'll bang that in and warm that up. And then I'll throw on some hot sauce and mush that in with that. Throw on a little mayonnaise, but that's got to be hot and warm as well. And so depending on what you want to do, you can slice the meat up and throw it in the mayo and put that in the microwave and heat that up. And then get so you get the toast and you've got all this meat that's on there, and if you want to put more hot sauce on, you'll do that, throw it on there as well, so it's nice and hot and spicy. But then, and this is the disgusting part, I'll get chips. or crisps as I call them, but chips. So it can be any flavour, but I tend to like just the plain ones because you've already got the flavour on there. And dip the chip into the bread and the sandwich or the toast or what you've got made there, and scoop that up and just eat that. And sometimes just if I'm feeling really lazy, I won't even bother making toast. It'll just be like the bread with all that stuff on it, and then crinkle up a bunch of chips, sprinkle that on top, and then fold the bread over it, and then eat it that way. And that would be my comfort food. There's no name for it, just a hot shop mess.
Okay, excellent. I like that. And I love how you walked us through each step to do this.
Well, I'm sure you want to make this now. You know, you're going to come off this recording, mate. You might have some work to do this afternoon, but you're going to come off this recording, and I know you're going to make that, and you're going to tell me exactly how much awesomeness it was.
So I'm finding that a lot of my comfort food does revolve around bread. And there's something in bread, it must be the sugars or something, that has me coming back all the time. And of course, every once in a while I need to, slow down and maybe eat something that doesn't involve bread. And that's kind of the week that I'm in this week. We're just having a no carbs kind of week. But I find when I get hungry and I get a craving, it generally involves something, bread. And what's better than a sandwich? Who doesn't have a favorite sandwich of some sort that they can rely on? And who wouldn't eat a sandwich every day for lunch if they could?
Oh, that's it. My favourite, and I used to hate it as well. My mum would make cheese and onion sandwiches for my dad. So slices of cheese, sliced onion, and then just throw it on top of the cheese, butter, big thick Scottish bread, and then serve that up. And I got to like onion because of my mum making these sandwiches years and years ago.
Scotland has some of the most unique stuff in the world. I was waiting for something involving haggis. I was wondering if haggis would show up. There's also the deep fried and the battered Mars bar, and battering a whole bunch of stuff and seeing whatever comes out of it. So that's why I sort of reserved this question for you and put it off to the side, was I knew I would get something unique.
Yeah, and I would make haggis. It's really hard to get here, and batter and stuff. It's just, it takes too much time. For me, I'm lazy. If I want something really fast and comfort, I just want it quick,
Yeah.
So that's why microwave bread, toast, whatever, juice up the meat, mayo, you're good to go. But I appreciate that, mate. I appreciate the fact that now I'll probably have to go make myself some food again. Yeah.
Well, of course, we're going to conclude this show, and then we're going to go make food.
Exactly. Maybe even some of that comfort food.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that, Matt, and I appreciate you being on the Random Question hot seat today. For anybody that wants to check out your production stuff and your media stuff, listen to your podcast, watch the videos that you do, or maybe even get in touch with you to work with you, where's the best place to connect, reach out, all that good stuff?
All the podcasts we make are at soundoff.network, and my podcast is a Sound Off podcast, which you can find at soundoffpodcast.com.
That sounded super professional. You've done this before, mate.
Yeah, I didn't even mention that I do voiceover.
I was going to say you do voiceover work as well, and I will leave links to Matt's voiceover page if that's okay.
That's great. You can find that at mattcundillvoice.com.
And there you go, and you've got a sample, so you know exactly what you're going to get. As always, I will have links to that in the episode show notes, so whatever app you're listening on, or even if you're listening on the website, check out the episode show notes. All the good stuff will be there. So again, Matt, thanks for appearing on today's 5 Random Questions.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to 5 Random Questions. And if this was your first time here, feel free to hit follow and check out past episodes. If you enjoyed this week's episode, I'd love for you to leave a review on the app you're currently listening on. And if you know someone else that would enjoy the show, be sure to send them this way. It's very much appreciated. Until the next time, keep asking those questions.